We are live. This is Coach Arnie with the Health, Love, Life, and Adventure Show. And on the Going Solo, WGSN-DB Going Solo Network, TV and podcast #1 Internet Talk Network. Thank you, CC, for allowing us to do this. And the best way to get a hold of me right now is by calling me or emailing me. We're still working on some things. So trying to avoid confusion, as I've been saying, and so far so good on that. Today we're going to talk about taking a misstep. Hold on a second. We're going to get that straightened out here. Don't worry about that. But we're going to be talking about that one step, and we're going to talk more about that in the context of pain. Because see, my background is in exercise physiology. My background is in fitness and coaching, health, and all that good stuff. And from there, it's where I've developed a lot of strategies that I've used with other aspects of life. But it still comes down to one step. Hang on a second here. I'm going to turn this off because I don't want to deal with that. That one step in our life that could really be devastating. And we're going to talk about that physically. Because see, I was thinking about this last week. I am an adventure athlete, even at almost 63. And I was out on a long adventure run. And I was thinking about, why do I do some of these crazy things as far as training and preparation? Why do I do these things? And a story, a true life story, popped in my head. I wasn't thinking about it at the time because I already had, and it involved a good friend of mine. I call him my R5 buddy because we both, even though he's done it twice, we both have completed what's called an R5 at the Grand Canyon. That's where we go rim to rim to rim to rim. It's an R5. And not a lot of people on the planet have done it. I happen to be the first over 60. He's in his 30s. So I've got him. Plus, I did it in a tougher way, and I did it solo. So I've got him on a couple edges there. But he's a good athlete, good runner. And he was actually he had just won what's called the Zion 100. It's a very tough 100-mile run. And for those of you out there that have never done anything like that, it's almost impossible to put your mind around something like that. Because even somebody who's been an athlete his whole life, when someone approached me a few years ago about doing a 100-mile race, I thought they were completely insane. And that's coming from somebody who is completely insane. I couldn't put my arms around it. And now that I've done it, I'll say 3 times, twice in an organized event, and once when I did the R5 at the Grand Canyon, because I'm going to call that a 100-miler, because even though it was 88, but it was, it took a lot longer and it took a lot more out of it. And the fact that I did it unsupported made it even more mind-boggling when you think about it. But so he had just won something called Zion 100 up in I want to say Utah. Yeah. And he was kind of doing a recovery run with some friends, thank God, up in Arizona here, what's called the White Tanks Mountains. It's west of where I'm at right now. Very steep, but there's nothing super long in the valley here where I'm at, but steep. And so he was up there, and I believe he was coming down, and he hit a little rock. We call them ankle biters. he hit a little rock, and I used to be bad about this, and my coach used to get all over me and make me stop and do jumping jacks or something goofy to learn not to do that, to learn to pick my feet up. And a lot of the training I do today is about picking my feet up. Well, he at this point, and I think it was just, you take it for granted. He's a champion. Hit a rock. And then what happens is when you hit a rock like that, you lunge forward with your opposite foot, in which I've done this, and I'll share another story about this here in a second, but he lunged forward with his other foot to catch himself. And when he did that, he landed in a way that he literally broke his hip socket. Because here's your hip socket. Here's your hip bone, the femur. That's your leg bone. And it fits up in this socket. And he broke the socket. And normally, 99 times out of 100, you have to have surgery. And I thought he was either scheduled for it or had, but he informed me yesterday that he did not have to have surgery. So they're making him rest for 8 weeks before he can even start to exercise. My thinking, I'm not saying anything yet because I'm hoping to be part of his recovery team, in that I'm just hoping that everything lines up, because if there needs to be some work done in here so that this thing slides in there like it's supposed to, because the hip socket turns, and think about what you do with that leg. It does a lot of stuff. And when you're running, right, it's a lot of impact, especially for a guy like us when you're doing, 50, 100 miles out of whack. My crazy brain, and I know his was too. We're thinking about doing a 250-mile event, right? So that's got to work right, and it's got to line up right. It's got to work right, and we'll see. We don't know, but one misstep caused that. And I'm not, could it have been fatigue? Sure. But one misstep. Now, when I'm out training, and I do some pretty crazy things, and because my story, like his, happened at the bottom of the Grand Canyon. A little over a year ago, I was having a phenomenal run, and literally it was about midnight, and I was coming back from the North Rim, and I hit a rock. And I hit a rock and did exactly what I just told you with my friend Michael, who's actually been a guest on our show. And I reached out with that other leg, caught myself, and the hamstring, that's the muscle in the back of your leg, it tore. Now, it tore in a way that it didn't detach or anything, which would have been devastating, but it tore enough that I had to stop for a minute, catch my breath, and start to manage the situation now. Because now I had an injury, and I had to manage it because I knew I had to get out of this place in the wilderness, and I had to go another, depending on how I went, 17 miles, okay, which included some really steep uphill climbing with a torn hamstring. And everything was going pretty well. I was managing it really well until coming up on the South Rim, what's called South Kaibab. And I had another somewhat misstep, and it shot pain up my leg, and I literally fell backwards. Now think about this. It's now about 3 o'clock in the morning, coming up on the Grand Canyon, a very steep part, and I'm falling backwards. really, I didn't really know where I was at the, because you're coming up in the dark, so you're doing these switchbacks. And there are places along the Grand Canyon, I mean, a lot of them, that there are sheer falls off the cliff. You fall. I mean, people do it every year. They fall and they don't get up, if you know what I mean. And so I just fell backwards. I go, oh boy. And I landed and looked around for a minute. And okay, I assessed, okay, I'm okay. Am I hurt? Legs first, because I need those to get out of here. And then the rest of it, I felt something in my shoulder, and that shoulder bothered me for about 3 months. But it also led me on a shoulder healing journey too, because in my world, every mistake creates a possibility to learn something new. So I learned a lot of things about the shoulder as well. But regardless, had to take a break and had to have a talk with myself, and ended up having a pretty good finish to the event. But man, oh man, I had an injury. My leg was black and blue, all because of one misstep. And so what's the point here? Well, the point is a couple things. Staying in the fitness training zone here, and especially as we get a little older. But I'm gonna share some information for younger folks as well. But as we get a little older, I talk to people all the time when they're at the gym. Why are they at the gym? There's still a good group of folks that want to look good. And that's good. There's nothing wrong with that. They want to look good. They want to feel good. And exercise is one of the best ways to get there. And then as we get even older, around my age, you start to look at other benefits to what we do. And one of those benefits is to avoid pain, So we strengthen the muscles around what I call the anti-gravity muscles. These are the muscles that hold us up. They hold us up. Hamstrings, quads, calves, lower back. These are critical muscles that help us to stay upright so we don't fall. And then I've taken it even further than that in the last year or so, and started talking about what I call deceleration muscles, decelerators. That's a tricky word for you. But we've all heard of deceleration. It means slowing down, stopping, changing directions. The common word, the easy term to remember about that is slowing down. And that requires certain muscles as well to be in shape. The problem, as we get older, we just don't work on those muscles, and they're not the showy muscles that you see at the gym. They're not the bench presses and all the fancy dancy abdominal muscles that we do. And I'm not saying those don't help, but they don't specifically help. And that's what I've learned to do, and I'm now helping others to do, and it's really become a passion now. Two reasons. One, it helps me. As I'm getting ready to turn 63 here in a month or so. It helps me to be better, to be safer, to avoid pain. Because look, what do we all do? What do we all do? I promise you, we are avoiding pain, and we're seeking pleasure. That's right. So for me, climbing a mountain or going into the Grand Canyon or doing something what I consider to be fun, talking about doing a 250-mile endurance event, And you're thinking, that's fun? Yeah, in my world, that's fun. Yours, it might be riding your bike. I've got a lady I'm working with right now. She wants to train for a 50-mile bike ride. Yeah, but she's 70 years old. She wants to train for a 50-mile bike ride that she did, 20 years ago. And she wants to ride to this place. It's 50 miles, whatever. And that's her joy. That's her Grand Canyon. Yours might be something else. I don't know what it is. But if it's something that you want to do, we train. That's your joy. And let me ask you something. If you were hurt, if you had chronic pain, would you even want to do it? I mean, I know how I feel when I don't feel good, when something hurts. Like I said, for 3 months, I dealt with shoulder pain, and then I learned new exercises. And then that added on another, like almost 2 months of pain that I was dealing with because I was working it in a different way. I was what I call getting longer and stronger. I was lengthening and strengthening at the same time. And that caused some pain. And now I've been pain-free for months now, and it feels good. I don't feel that achy feeling that I was talking with somebody this morning who's a little younger than me, but he still wants to push the big weights. And I just, in about 5 minutes of our conversation, I must have told him a half dozen times, well, as long as it doesn't hurt, and hoping that it would sink in. I don't know it will, because he's done this before, and I've known him for a very long time. Used to work out with him, big, strong guy. And he's bound and determined to lift some heavy weights. I'm fine with that, as long as you're willing to deal with the consequences of doing that. That's his joy. His joy might be to bench press 400 pounds. So what are the consequences of bench press? Well, it could be pretty devastating because he just came off of hurting his shoulder 4 months ago. So, but what if he prepared for that one misstep? What if he did that? See, in lifting weights, it's about that one time, that one rep that you do that causes shoulder pain, back pain, neck pain. I mean, I've had all these. Maybe in your pec area here. Maybe it's in your back of your knee. Something. But if you prepare for that one time to avoid that, but you've got to be intentional about it. See, just like when I go hiking every weekend, I am constantly looking for where can I improve this? What exercise, what movement can help me so I can improve this, so that I can avoid pain and keep doing this, which makes me feel good. I want you to hold that thought for a minute. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back. And we're going to talk about how you can avoid that one step, that misstep in your life. All right, we are back with the Health, Love, Life, and Adventure show, and then we're gonna we're gonna highlight life and adventure and health today, because we're talking about pain, and we're talking about avoiding pain by preparing and preventing that one misstep that we that can attack or affect all of us at some point in our life. I was just watching a video earlier today by a friend of mine. I want to say the video had the statistics that there are going to be 1 million knee replacements done this year. And by 2025, so we're 3 years away from that, 1,300,000. So a 30% increase in the next 3 years. That's pretty dramatic. And not all those case studies are positive. I mean, there's a lot of, because one of the things he's working on is a procedure to hopefully avoid a lot of that, the need for that. And that's what I do in helping people eliminate pain as well. But one of the ways I do that is in prevention, preparing for that misstep that could take you down. That, like my friend Michael, hitting a rock and breaking a hip, or it could be the young athletes. Let's talk about some young athletes here for a minute. Some of you may know some young athletes. Some of you might be one. I don't know. You might have drifted into this show, or you may know somebody. But, when you're talking about kids that play soccer and football, even baseball, most, if not, I'll just use the number 90%, the statistic. But 90% of these injuries that you're seeing with young people are non-contact injuries. When I was in high school, I can't say mine was a non-contact. I was playing football and planted my foot in the mud, but I physically watched as somebody ran his helmet right into my knee. Those are the days when you can do all that fun stuff. And then felt, the things start to pop and tear as I went down. So mine was definitely a contact injury, because hopefully I would have been able to pull my foot out of the mud and keep going. But obviously that didn't happen. But today, because we've got a lot of rules to protect that from happening, but we're seeing these young people planting their feet, changing directions, and tearing up their knees. I mean, it's devastating to watch this stuff. Watch these young people, and then because going down the surgery road is a long road. It's not always as simple as people want to say it is. You don't just have surgery and come back and play at the same level, which is what concerns me about my friend. But because you build up scar tissue and other things, and maybe the rehabilitation wasn't appropriate. I don't know. But I do know with some new, and I shouldn't say innovative, because a lot of things that I do are what I would consider old school, because some of the people that do some of the exercises that I do are from way back in the 1920s, 30s, 40s, and maybe that's why it works. It's old fashioned and it just works because the idea again is preparing for that one misstep. And how do we do that? Well, we do that by doing exercises that help us to slow down, stop, change direction. And we talked about that a little bit earlier. We talked about the hamstrings, back of the legs. And there are specific movements that you can learn and do and that will help you to do that. but you have to obviously be willing to learn these new things. And if you're a coach, you have to be willing to teach them to your athletes. But here's the difference. A lot of them are very different than what you've been taught. So it's kind of like the race car driver. When you're driving a race car around an oval, a track, sometimes you feel like you should be turning left, but in reality, you should be going right. And so when someone says, go right, you're going, no, I'm supposed to go left. And that's kind of the place that I found myself in, once again in my life, trying to teach something that's a little different. But this time, the reason it's different for me, because I'm so used to it, is because of wisdom. What do you mean by that? Well, here's the wisdom. As I said earlier, I'm an exercise physiologist. I've also owned and operated physical therapy clinics. So I know a little bit more about my competition, as they say, than I would have, 30 years ago when I was just going head on into a storm. So now I can kind of fly over the storm a little bit, okay, and see, hey, look, what's going on here? How can I help people to avoid pain, eliminate pain, and do what they want to do in life? And that's kind of the goal. So doing these things that seem counter to what we've been taught. I was just talking to two physical therapy students that are friends of mine that I've been helping while they were in physical therapy school. Now they're physical therapists. And so I was sharing with them some of my ideas, and they go, oh, we've never heard of that. Hello. More evidence that I'm on the right track, because they're not even teaching what I'm teaching. And because I'm not about the rehabilitation. I can do that, but I'm about the prevention. I'm about the avoiding the pain and then eliminating it if we have to deal with it. And so that is by doing things that are counterintuitive to the status quo. That is how I get there. So by doing things that are not being taught, that are different, that are considered odd. That's my road here. And so, because a lot of people ask, why do I do it that way? Well, because I could take the easy route and just do what everybody else is doing. But then how does that separate me out? And it's not just that. I mean, separating out is one thing, but being effective, getting it done, results is really where it's at. Because I know this I know. People that go through a traumatic event like a knee replacement, hip replacement, it's not what they think it is. It's a lot of work. And I'm helping people in that space as well, helping them to be able to navigate that a little better. And it's not always easy, because you're dealing with folks that really want to listen to their doctors and their therapists and people that really mean well. But I'm not worried about that. I have one focus in mind. I told a client yesterday, look, I don't care about all that other stuff. I care about you. I pointed right at him. I said, I care about you. I want you to get better. I don't care how we get there, as long as you're better. And that's important, because, I don't have to fly by the status quo. I can fly solo over here and really make a difference, and then continue to make a difference, and then continue to attract people that are making a difference. And pretty soon you're making a difference, a big difference. Okay. And that's really what it's at. Why that's the why, because it seems simple when it comes to exercise, eating right, and just general health, right? Hey, if you just do those things, you got this thing. Absolutely. 90% of the way is you're there. I got into a fun little, not debate, because he's a client of mine, but he had overheard me talking about, and one of these days we'll go in depth about this. He had heard me talking about nutrition and how a client of mine needed to eat more meat, red meat, if possible. And then because we had talked about earlier, he had his doctor's appointment, blood test, He's dealing with some pre-diabetic stuff, which is really up my alley, but I didn't push it because he was there for knee pain. But I planted the seeds. And so later in the day, he texted me about what did I mean by that? And I shared with him my ideas on red meat, how it is so non-allergic. It means it's one of the most non-allergic superfoods there is out there. And I think the word super threw him for a loop. Wait a minute. Red meat's bad for you. I said, not really. I said, do your homework. And I tell that to all the time. Not only, from a mental standpoint, but other things as well. And so we had a nice little back and forth. And but I didn't want to. It wasn't a fair discussion because he didn't have his information yet, and we had never really gone down the nutrition road before. And so hopefully I'll see him tomorrow, and we will talk more about it if he's open to it. The point of that little quick story was that in the nutrition world, eliminating processed food and sugar, you're 90% there. Eating right, exercising, working on general health things, you're 90% there. The rest of it is where all the heavy lifting happens. In the nutrition world, it's, hey, am I going to be a vegan or am I going to be a carnivore or somewhere in between? As long as I've eliminated processed food, I really don't care. I just want you to be better. Honestly. In the fitness world, if you are moving, eating right, and doing other things healthy, I don't really care. But if you came to me and say, hey, I've got this pain in my knee, I'm going to show you how to get rid of it. I've got this pain in my shoulder. I'm going to show you how to get rid of it. Hey, Arnie, I want to climb a mountain. I'm going to show you how to do that in a way that focuses on health first, then fitness. See, because a lot of people attack it from getting fit, but you might be getting unhealthy along the way, causing problems. And then you come back and see me later because you've broken down your body. See the difference? But if you get healthy first, you build that nice foundation. Now you can start doing things and get really fit. It's like building a skyrise, a big building on a foundation of sand, and you didn't go very deep. You didn't dig a deep foundation. You just kind of, put a little cement down on some sandy, uneven ground. It may not be a very strong building. But if you go deep and you really put a nice foundation in, you'd be surprised what you can accomplish in your life. You'd be surprised what you can accomplish in your fitness, in your health. But if you don't, you just kind of, I don't know. You're building that. You're building a shaky building, as they say. You're building a shaky building. So we want to work on that 90%, eating right, being fit, doing general things for your health. And that way, when you have something you want to train for or go for, or whatever it might be, or you come up with some knee pain, now you're in a place where you can do something about it. Because, see, people I've run into in their 50s and 60s, they become a bit depressed because they can't do what they used to do. Why? Well, they gain weight. They've gotten unhealthy. They've created poor movement patterns. They're walking inappropriate. You're walking in a way that causes hip pain, back pain, foot pain. I just had a pilot come to me a couple months ago with foot pain, and I did my homework on it, found out where the problem was, and this is right the day he came to me. The next day he went to a foot podiatrist who charged him for expensive orthotics, and then talked to him about surgery. I said, no. If you do this, you're going to avoid that. And guess what? He started doing his exercises, and he doesn't have foot pain anymore. He doesn't have foot pain. He's not even talking about surgery. He hasn't even been back to that guy yet. Not that he will, unless he wants to buy another pair of $400 orthotics. But what I'm trying to say is if you get healthy, then you're open to learning how to bulletproof yourself, how to avoid this pain, how to eliminate it. Now we're talking. Because see, in reality, most are looking for what is that one time, what we're looking for. This is the reality here, guys. You may not be realizing it while you're doing it, but you are looking to avoid that one misstep that, as you read right there, can dramatically change your life. You all know somebody that tripped and broke a hip or tore their knee. And you know what? Their life stopped when it came to activity. It stopped. They're not doing what they used to do. They're not. And if that's you, it doesn't have to be that way, because there are ways out of this thing. But because see, most injuries today are caused. Remember I said earlier, especially in athletics, but most injuries today are caused by taking that one misstep. Or in reality, a series of missteps over a lifetime. One of those is right here at the computer. My wife was in here the other day watching me doing some work on the computer. She goes, I want to be able to sit like you on my computer, her chair. Because she's like most people, so I'll turn here, and they're like this. And so I know I sometimes get in that movement pattern, but just doing that right now, it bothered me. But I try to sit here like this even when I'm working. And then I'll get up and go do something. Because I teach people to get up every 45 minutes or so, move around, pull those shoulders back. But we also do a series of movements that will help you to avoid getting in that movement pattern. It's hard. These things are not easy. Hey, look, living a pain-free life is work. Doing these things that I'm sharing with you today, these simple exercises that I teach, is work. If it was easy, I wouldn't be doing a show about it. I would just, because there wouldn't be anything to talk about, would there? We wouldn't be talking about 1 million knee replacements a year, would we? We would, and that, look, that's just the knee. We could go down the road with hips and back surgeries. Let's quadruple those numbers. Am I right? How many people in here know about people that have had back surgeries? Okay. Broken a hip, all these things. Are you kidding me? It's off the charts. It's off the charts. All right. So listen, this is important. I want you to think about it as we end the show today. Think about that one misstep. What do you need to do to correct whatever you're doing in your life right now? Do you need to get a little more fit? Do you need to get a little more healthy first? Fit, stronger, whatever it might be. If this is something I can help you with, don't hesitate to reach out. Okay. And You can look me up on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. It doesn't matter. Just look me up, and we can help you to avoid that one misstep in your life so that you can do what you want to do. That's the key. It's not about going to the gym. That's for crazy people like me. It's about doing the specific things you need to do, whether it's at the gym or at home, that will help you avoid that one misstep. I promise you. All right, guys. This is Coach Arnie with the Health, Love, and Life Show. And until next time, have a great rest of your day and watch that step. Talk to you later.